So welcome everyone to our fourth conference of Connecting the State. The first time we will do this in English, that is in this room. This is the second time that we are live as well, so it's kind of a hybrid. We have a lot of people online, so it's streamed as well. My name is Vigdís Jóhannsdóttir. I'm the marketing director of Digital Iceland, and I will try to be the glue of today. I'm going to just walk through the agenda of today. So our minister, Bjarni Benediktsson, will be giving the opening remarks. Then we expect Karen Ellerman to give a talk as well. We're going to get our CEO of Digital Iceland, Andri Heiðar Kristinsson, to the stage. And then Clare Martorana, our keynote speaker, will be talking, giving us some really interesting news from the White House. And then Anne-Marie Enghoft Larsen will be giving a short talk while our ministers are getting ready for a panel. So we'll just go through the rest of the agenda after the coffee break, but during the coffee break, the schedule will split into 3 rooms. So we have Digital Iceland, everything happening there in Icelandic, starting at 3 o'clock in Kaldalón downstairs. We also have the digital security happening in Rima, which is an invite-only event. So unfortunately, only those who got an invite will be able to attend there. But I would like to ask our minister, Mr. Bjarni Benediktsson, to join me here on stage and give the opening remarks. Thank you.
Ministers and distinguished guests, I'm very excited to be in this audience today, talking about a matter that is close to my heart as a minister of digital matters in Iceland. And for those of you that are here for the first time, welcome. Welcome to Iceland, and also you that are revisiting. Thank you for being a part of this year's Digital Iceland Annual Conference. Now, it is an honor to share this platform with esteemed speakers who are instrumental in shaping the strategies and execution of digital services across the Nordic and Baltic region. When we talk about digital leadership on a global scale, the Nordic Baltic countries stand as true pioneers, setting the bar high for citizens' access to electronic identification and the use of digital services, both in the public and private sectors. I believe there are several key factors contributing to our success. Number 1, strong digital infrastructure, our nation's most robust digital foundations. Secondly, widespread eID usage. Over 90% of citizens in most of the countries actively use electronic identification. Thirdly, centralized registries. Our centralized population registries enable further progress. So we're at a good place in that regard. And fourthly, digital expectations. Simply that our citizens not only expect but demand digital services due to their time savings and environmentally friendly nature. We're moving data, we're not moving people. So in my opinion, governments have a clear duty to constantly seek ways to do things more efficiently, to make better use of taxpayers' money while maintaining the same or better level of service. We do have a responsibility to streamline public sector services, recognizing that digital self-service is often far more efficient than telephone or in-person interactions. We can put it this way: digitalization enables governments to achieve 4 goals that were once almost impossible to combine. higher productivity, greater optimization, higher quality service, and lower environmental impact. Even though we're moving faster than ever, it simultaneously gets increasingly hard to keep up with user expectations, since people now expect all services to be accessible online. In Iceland, we've been quite successful in constantly adding digital services available to the public. For example, by the end of this year, we expect that 100% of the entire buying and selling process of properties and vehicles will be digitalized. We are already at more than 80% today. Our estimate is that the government operational cost and societal savings due to this will amount to 11 million euros a year. Another example is the District Commissioner's Office in Iceland, which has already digitized 70 services, primarily digital certificates with applications, saving over 85,000 trips a year. We're trying to translate this into something people understand. They don't need to do the trip. And most of those trips would have been done by car. And I haven't even mentioned the time-saving part of it. In the broader context, we're witnessing complex service processing becoming up to 4 times faster and more efficient compared to just a couple of years ago, 4 years ago maybe. Undoubtedly, many of our fellow countries can share the same kinds of stories. I've grown to learn that this morning while having a session with the ministers from the Nordics and the Baltics. Now, in today's fast-paced digital era, digitation and cybersecurity go hand in hand. As we embrace the potential of digitization, the need for robust cybersecurity becomes paramount. The strength and efficiency of our digital infrastructure hinge on the security measuring protecting it. They hinge on the security measures protecting it. As we've all experienced, the global shift towards digitization promises efficiency and advancements. However, to realize these benefits, people must trust the digital platforms and infrastructure they engage with. It is not just about having online services, it's about ensuring their constant availability and data integrity. In Iceland, despite our independence on foreign supply chains for digitization, we have taken proactive steps. The government is increasingly using cloud solutions, which in general are more secure than on-premise operated solutions. We've established a university-level cybersecurity education program and invested significantly in cybersecurity capabilities, both with entities that make preemptive measures to strengthen IT architecture and resilience, but also with rapid expansion of reactive teams like the national CERT team, CERT-IS. This effort also extends to public-private partnerships that benefit both businesses and the public, creating a secure digital landscape that fosters trust. And speaking of public-private partnerships, I previously named examples of how Iceland has successfully digitized public services. This is true across a wide array of services, and in the last few years, Iceland has rapidly moved up the list of top-performing countries. We're currently in the 5th place in UN rankings on digital services, up from 19th place in 2019. And that was just about the time when we decided on a governmental level that we needed to roll up our sleeves and do something about things. So we're very, very happy to see that translate into showing Iceland higher on the index. And we believe that this is largely thanks to a joint effort by the public sector and the government's clear emphasis on the matter. However, none of this happens solely within the walls of public buildings, the private sector, driven by ambitious individuals who run various companies in this space, have played a crucial role in the endeavor. And I can give you two concrete examples: language technology and digital services development. So in summary, this approach has maximized our efficiency far beyond what would be possible within ministries and institutions alone. The result is a portfolio of core digital services accessible to the public. And this brings me to the final point, which I will say that my international colleagues often find funny how many Icelanders regard the other Nordics and Baltics as large countries with a warm climate and cheap alcohol. Despite this perception, I think we can all agree that our nations are relatively small. With that in mind, our progress is particularly impressive. Our countries punch well above their weight and are in, as I previously noted, nothing less than pioneers in the field of digital services. I believe this can be attributed to many factors: our willingness to think outside the box and maintain strong public-private partnerships, but last and not least, our particularly strong cooperation. I think that is very crucial. The strength of our region lies not only in our individual success, but in the unity and collaboration we display as the Nordic and Baltic countries. As we face the challenges of the digital age and seize its remarkable opportunities, let's remember that our shared goals are best achieved when we work hand in hand. So thank you all for being here today. I'm sure the upcoming discussions, insights, and shared experiences will contribute to our continued mutual success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is crucial for a project like digitization of a government to have strong leadership, and we're very lucky here in Iceland to have very strong leadership. I would like to welcome another leader to the stage, Karen Ellemann, Secretary General of the Nordic Council of Ministers, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the digital community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a great pleasure to see all of you. And let me just start with a little fact. The Nordic region is the 11th largest economy in the world. And if we also add the Baltics, it's even larger. So if anyone is still thinking of our region as a small one, it's time to reconsider. Because together we are strong. Together we are a community, and together we have an impact. This is especially true when it comes to digitalization. In a world that is increasingly interconnected and reliant on technology, the Nordic and Baltic region is proof of what can be achieved when like-minded nations join forces to shape the digital future. The Nordic and Baltic countries are among the most digitally advanced societies in the world. We are leading most international rankings on public digitalization, and we score high when it comes to competitiveness and innovation. Our region has a history of innovating with a societal purpose. Creating responsible solutions that puts human in the center, building upon strong democracies. On this foundation of common values, we have not only an opportunity to lead, but I have to say it very clear, I think we have an obligation to do so. 2017, many years ago, but still a remarkable year, we created the new Ministerial Council for Digitalization, and we did something new. We invited our Baltic neighbors to join. And that was, to put it, I didn't do it personally, but that was a very good move. And we have just, as Minister Bjarni just said, we have just finished a ministerial meeting within this constellation. And the Nordic and the Baltic ministers were having great discussions during that meeting. And they had it in an open and a frank way that you can only have when you are among friends. Some of the most demanding issues of our time was on the agenda. This included, for instance, how we can work together on AI policies and guidelines to help solve major societal challenges. Also, how we can strengthen our collaboration when it comes to influencing upcoming EU initiatives and regulation. And also, how we can ensure that our digital policies are just and leave no one behind. We also had two amazing women joining us in the meeting. The Danish tech ambassador Anne-Marie Engtoft Larsen and Clare Martorana, Federal Chief Information Officer of the United States. They both shared their valuable perspectives in the discussions, and it was already put in the agenda because you know that you have the pleasure to listen to them in just a little bit. Today, what also happened in our meeting was that the ministers adopted a declaration on identity matching. It is a milestone and will give our region a head start in leading the development on cross-border identity matching on a European level. These commitments will also contribute to fulfilling the goal of the Nordic Prime Ministers of making our region the most integrated in the world by 2030. Identity matching is necessary to enable cross-border mobility for our residents, and we are in a very good position to achieve this. And the best part is that it will make everyday life for our residents and our businesses much easier. Building on the high level of trust and willingness to collaborate, this declaration shows a strong political commitment towards achieving identity matching. It also gives a clear mandate to the countries and respective authorities to make this possible. So it's clear to see that this is actually regional cooperation at its best. We live in challenging times. We have an aggressive neighbor to the east, and we are losing competitiveness to our great ally in the West. We face climate change and digital disruptions, and the list goes on. At the same time, we are witnessing unprecedented developments in digitalization. New technologies are accompanied by great risks, but they also offer extraordinary opportunities. The Nordic Council of Ministers provide a platform for political dialogue, policies and partnerships to address these challenges. So by working together, we can elevate the Nordic-Baltic voice in global fora and influence the policies and guidelines coming out of these, making sure that they are in line with our values. Cooperation has always been important, of course, but perhaps never as much as now. So being a digital frontrunner will not last if one becomes complacent. So as the Secretary General of the Nordic Council of Ministers, I really look forward to contributing to our region, taking the lead in EU and globally, making sure that the digital transition is secure, sustainable, human-centric, and increases regional competitiveness. So together we can set standards, we can develop new ways, and we can push boundaries. And we want to play a vital part in making our region adaptive, competitive, and resilient. And we are well on our way, thanks to partners like you. So thank you so much, and I look very much forward to a productive and inspiring conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for inspiring words. I believe that yours and Bjarni's and those that we will hear today will give many of you the secret ingredients to the recipe of how we can do this together and how we can do this quickly and how we can do this in a way that we succeed in becoming global leaders. I would like to welcome my leader to the stage, my boss, Andri Heiðar Kristinsson, the CEO of Digital Iceland. He's going to be talking about Iceland's digital transformation journey, a jump into the future. This is the fourth conference that we do together, so we should be fairly adjusted he should be fairly adjusted to taking the stage. Welcome, Andri.
Thank you, everyone. It's awesome to see all of you here today, and I want to particularly welcome all of you that have come from afar, all of our international guests, friends and colleagues from the Nordics, Baltics, and the USA. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about our journey. I'm going to talk a little bit about how it started. I'm going to share with you how it's going, and I will give you a peek preview into where we are headed. So let's go back 4 years. Like Bjarni said, when we were starting sort of really rolling up our sleeves and starting this journey. Many of you that are Icelandic in the room look at this webpage and say, wow, a lot has changed. And it feels very long time ago since we had this webpage as Iceland.is. So I'm going to share with you a few steps and milestones in our journey, how we got to where we are today and what we've learned. And so I'm going to talk about how it's going. So in 2020, we started off and we finished 22 projects in collaboration with all of the agencies that are here today. And we did things like we launched the new Iceland.is website that got a lot of awards. We were one of the first countries in the world to launch a digital driver license that are legal here in Iceland. We did a lot of services, simple services like the digital criminal record that saved tens of thousands of trips to the different agencies. And we radically changed the public procurement of technology and software vendors with cross-disciplinary collaboration. In 2021, we did 41 projects, such as My Pages portal, where citizens can log in and have all their personal information in one place. We did the digital parental leave, where parents can now, in a very smooth and seamless way, apply for their parental leave. We put our first laws, and this is where the legislation speaks with technology. We put laws to eliminate the paper trail of Icelandic agencies. And we're slowly and securely achieving that goal. So everything should be digital. And we had the first agency, the district commissioners, move their website to Iceland.is to collaborate. In 2022, we started scaling up. We went to 116 projects that we did together. We started using and building up these sort of shared services, such as a new identification service. We launched our mobile app so that you can have the government at your fingertips at any place, anytime. We launched our chatbot that now takes care of about 80% of all questions and conversations on our website. And we did a lot of different things that were just very handy, such as having the passport information available in the mobile app. So if you are traveling, you need to remember the license number or expiration date, you have it in your pocket for yourself and your kids at all times. And in 2023, and this is not counting the 77 projects that we already have ongoing and are not finished, we finished 158 projects. And we sometimes say that when asked how many people live in Iceland, well, there are more sheep in Iceland than people. We also have more people visiting Iceland.is than people in our country. So we're seeing that there's been a very big uptick in usage of all of these centralized services. We're digitalizing the housing registry, as Bjarni mentioned. We are working on digital pension application, and we're continuing to add more and more information on our website, on our portal, every single week and every month. So ultimately, what we're building, we are building the government as a cloud platform. And you see this, how we've been scaling up in the last few years. And so, in a simple way, the website is the central with our web, app, and user portal for the user-facing front. We are then working on connecting all the national registries together using X-Road as our data exchange layer that we've been working on with Estonia and Finland and other partners. And we identified a lot of these shared services that agencies needed, such as identification, authorization, application system, notifications, and so on. And this is very much an ongoing project. Some of them are close to becoming ready and are deployed widely, and others are still early and being worked on. And just one example of how we are starting to slowly scale this up. I mentioned, I think a couple of years ago, we did the first agency website. It was a fairly big project to move it into Iceland.is. Currently, we have 20. We have now moved 20 agency websites into the same world or same ecosystem where things get a lot more efficient for both the citizens and the agencies. And I actually think we had one just launched yesterday, so it's 21 now, and we are launching a new website for an agency about every 3 weeks. And so that gives you a little bit of insight into how you start small, start with single projects, then you build the platform, and you start scaling things up. And as Bjarni mentioned, we're very proud that a few years ago, we were lagging behind many of our peers, Nordic and Baltic countries, but we are slowly moving up the ranks and becoming peers. And we're very happy that we are also able to contribute to this ecosystem and become one of the leading nations along with you guys in the world. But we must never forget why we are doing all of this and what keeps us going. It's these 4 simple things that I keep telling you, and most of you have heard over and over. We are driving better services for our citizens in order to save time, save money, and save the environment. It's as simple as that. And this is what we do all day. And now I've shared with you a little bit of our journey, and I want to speak a little bit about the next steps in the journey. You may ask, well, we've done a lot of things, we've made a lot of progress, and then what? When are we done? I used to work at LinkedIn in Silicon Valley, and I always remember this when one of my uncle, he came to visit, and he saw we were about 10,000 people at the time, and he was like, well, when are you guys done building this website? And I looked at him, and I had a really hard time answering him. And I know Bjarni knows this very well. We're not nearly done yet. He understands technology has been backing us in a very strong way. But I do often get this question from other politicians. Well, when are you done building Iceland.is? And my answer is always, we're done at the same time we're done building roads in Iceland. It's an ongoing project that is continuing to evolve, and we iterate and we learn and continue to build and for the future. It's constantly changing, the needs. But the team has done an amazing job to sort of build out and lay out a roadmap, a plan for the next phase in our journey. And I want to share with you just briefly. Vigdís and Gunnar will share this in more in-depth later on today. But we decided on sort of 3 core strategic themes for the next few years. Number 1, live events across the states. Complex live events are connecting multiple agencies with the user-first centric design. Increased collaboration, and we're already seeing this starting to happen. And that's because of so many of you that are sitting here in the room. This is the one that's focusing on people first. Number 2 is digital steps. We are empowering agencies with our shared services, learning and sharing our learnings and so forth to help them scale up and help agencies adopt shared services. We are making our services more simple, more standardized, more transparent implementation process. And we are empowering you to continue building because you guys, the agencies, are really doing the heavy lifting. And then the third key pillar is going to be free flow of data. We've talked about this and we've done a lot. But we want to become an API-first government where using the once-only principle is a key driver. We should be sending data between agencies. We shouldn't send people driving cars with paper. And we need to open access to all of the public data to fuel innovation and data transparency within the government. And with all of you, our partners, we want to send data across countries as well and do more in terms of cross-country collaboration, data sharing and security. So there's a lot of things going on. But building on this, we are also dealing with a lot of new technologies. And I've shared some of my thinking around this before here. But there is sort of this notion of digital hierarchy of needs. And we are really moving up in this ladder. I feel like Iceland has strongly been building up on the first three ones, and we're really starting to tap into the fourth and the fifth one. So as Bjarni mentioned with the language, I believe it was something like that. Our president went to Sam Altman from OpenAI and pitched him the idea that Icelandic language was so complex that he must train the data for GDP4 on Icelandic so it would be much better in learning other languages. And I'm proud of this. Icelandic language was the second language to English that was used to train GDP4. And so we are, in these small ways, able to contribute to the global economy of digital transformation. But all of that sort of is simply about combining those three things. We are trying to connect the government to its people and businesses using digital services. It's as simple as that. And we do it to simplify people's life. But none of that would be possible without an incredible team and having a lot of fun. So we have a lot of fun building all of this. As some of you know, this is going to be the last time I'll be on the stage in this role. So I want to ask my team to stand up, and I want you to give them a big applause. Guys, stand up. This is the team that will move things forward and take on the torch, and I look very much forward to following you from the sidelines and cheering you over the next phase of our journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of the team, it is for sure that you will be missed. Luckily, we know that we have your phone number. And we know where you live, so you will not get rid of us that easily. Next to the stage, I would like to welcome a true leader from the United States, Clare Martorana, the Federal Chief Information Officer of OMB, one of the many acronyms that you find in the States, but she works directly for the President of the United States. We had a beautiful chat yesterday. It was really inspiring for the small country of Iceland, who is missing a few zeros. We are 400,000 now, very proud of that. They are closer to 400 million, I believe. She is leading 50 states on a federal level, so our roles are a little bit different. But we are very honored and very proud that she is joining us here today, as well as all the Nordic and Baltic leaders. And we're very humble to be able to contribute to this. Welcome, Clare.
Good afternoon. What an honor to be here. I am always envious of my colleagues in Iceland. I wish those were my slides. My slides are a little more rudimentary, but just the progress has been extraordinary, and we feel so honored and privileged to have the opportunity to go on this journey with all of you. We're at such a unique time. in our government in the United States, and I think I can say comfortably across the world. So looking forward to this conversation with you all. So Disa said, I am the Federal Chief Information Officer. My office is the Tech Policy Office at the White House, and we create and modernize tech policy to support modern technology service delivery across the federal government. I'm going to show you a little bit about who we are and what we do. So our office is in the White House, as I said, and we have a very complex ecosystem. We have 430 federal agencies that make up our federal government. And it is, there is a component set of agencies that make up this center of government. And what we have realized, I think all of us in the last 10 or 15 years, is it is really technology that powers our missions in our federal agencies and across our federal government. So the Office of the Federal Chief Information Officer, we write the policies, we work collaboratively across the government, and there are components of government that are focused, like many of your countries, on service delivery directly to the public. We have 35 agencies whose mission includes high-impact services, so applying for benefits, applying for a passport, improving the screening that we do at airports. And then there are 400 others who have extraordinary missions in and of themselves to focus on delivering the best quality government we can to the American people. And the numbers that Disa mentioned, you might hear 350 million citizens of the United States, but we also manage incoming tourists. We have to process people that are applying for asylum, green cards, immigration in general. So our number is about 400 million people that are served through these agencies every year. So the USCIO office creates this policy, and we support this modern design. We spend self-reported data from our IT colleagues across government that we're spending about $115 billion a year on IT, and we have 2.1 million federal employees. And it is tech policy making that enables all of that service delivery. The way that we work, our Congress creates the laws. We then have to do policy and guidance to interpret those laws so that all of our teams, like your teams, can deliver. And then we build best practices, policies, and playbooks so that we can scale that learning across our ecosystem. We have, as you can imagine, with that complexity of 430 agencies, we have some agencies that are 10 people. We have some agencies that are over, 500,000 employees. So the scale of these are really completely different, but all of them need the guidance that we deliver to be able to create those experiences for the public. So digital, like every place in the world practically, is the default way that the public interacts with the government. We have a few more website visits, maybe than Andre showed a little while ago. Every month we have about 1.7 billion visits to the federal websites. One of the things we try to focus on is how much burden we are causing our public to have to interact with our government. The 80 billion hours spent monthly represents how hard we made it, right? We have not made this seamless yet. It is still really difficult. You have to search, then you have to try to find an agency, then you have to try to find a benefit, how to apply for the benefit. It's quite complex. And also, we are changing the skew of the way that people are accessing information with a lower, when I was in the private sector, my average was close to 80% of people visiting my digital properties were on mobile devices. In the government, it is a little bit lower level. But we're not meeting the expectations that people have of our government. They want to interact through digital channels. We are consistently asking for that feedback, validating what we're doing. But we also can't leave anybody behind. We need to have a multi-channel experience because not everybody is going to be interacting with our government in the same way. And you can see, I won't read you all the statistics, but we are utilizing many of the more modern tools, but also are doing a lot of work that is still servicing people in person or on the phone to have a personal conversation. But what the public sees when they're searching for government services online is not pleasant. You will hear a little later from my colleague, Andy Lewandowski, what the public sees and what the public expects, and how we are working hard to try and do better. This example is when you search to get our health benefits. If you're over age 65, you're eligible to get state benefits for health, which is a wonderful benefit in the US government. Under age 65, you have to pay for your own health care benefits, either through your employer or through the healthcare exchange that we design. So when you go to apply for Medicare, you would think that you would likely go to the agency, the health agency, Health and Human Services, but no, you have to go to Social Security first before you can apply for Medicare. And because we made this so complex, 1 million people have fallen into a gap that we created, and legally, they pay an extra penalty on their insurance premium every month for the rest of their lives. It's illogical. We've done damage to these people. We are working really hard to fix that gap, to take people out of that. And we know that we can do that by using really basic technology like search engine optimization to make sure somebody doesn't, they go through the funnel and we drop them to the right place and answer their question instead of having them navigate a labyrinth of different websites that are oftentimes confusing and oftentimes written in legalese language that I find hard to translate. Also, federal websites have a fragmented look. Andre spoke about life experiences. That's an organizing principle that we use, is making sure that we understand your journey. We understand, so if you're approaching retirement, if you are having a child, we look at that life experience, we build the journey maps, we do service design blueprints, we do all of the things, identifying those moments that matter where we might be able to have a digital interaction. But when you transit, these are 6 of our most popular websites that account for, I believe, 80% of the transactions that the public has to do with government. They don't really look the same. You can't really tell. They're on a .gov domain, but people don't look at the URL. They look at the website, and they're trying to figure out in this environment, is this trusted? Am I actually on a government website? Some of them don't even have any indication that they're a government agency. So part of what we're working on right now is uniform visual design, look and feel, so that when you transit from one place to another, that you don't have to guess if you're being intercepted by a private sector company in your search results that deliver you a better experience. So this is something we're excited about working on. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Also, we have created some standards, like many countries around the world, for what this service delivery should look like. And we've designed something called the US Web Design System, which creates those uniform templates that would allow you to navigate from place to place. But 60% of our websites aren't accessible to all people with basic standards. 45% are not mobile friendly, so something that absolutely needs to be, and many are not using that same web design system. So again, areas for improvement. And then this is probably what I get the biggest headlines on in the United States when I publicly state that only 2% of our forms are digitized. We do a lot of work on paper. We oftentimes have a digital front end, so you could fill out a PDF online, submit it, and then we turn it into paper on the back end. And that is something we're working extraordinarily hard to remediate. Look at the amount of money that we're spending on paper. It's just not sustainable, and it's also based on our climate. It is not sustainable for the planet. So this is what we're working on. This is what the American public deserves. Simple, seamless, secure. That's why I could probably use your slides, Andre, because we're saying the same things. We have to make something simple enough for people to be able to ask a question, get guided to the right place, complete their task, seamless when they have to interact between agencies and move around, and then secure, which is top of mind for all of us. So we can do better, and we are going to do better. I was hoping today to be able to share with you some guidance that we are putting out, but maybe we will put it out in the next week or two. We're struggling a little with a potential government shutdown, which is taking up a lot of oxygen in our space. But this is a visualization of a concept. It is not a graphic design that we are using, but those same websites that I showed you a little bit earlier, if they had uniform branding, if we were using some of those web design system, we would be able to navigate someone seamlessly. They would be able to file their taxes. They'd be able to apply for health care, get their Social Security benefits, apply for a passport, and know where they were along the journey. And we are going to be putting out guidance that is going to be driving towards this type of interface and harmony across our ecosystem. The Biden-Harris administration has been very forward-leaning when it comes to trying to advance us universally across our federal agencies. So top of mind for us is cybersecurity. That is our job every minute of every single day. We are attacked by adversaries hundreds of thousands of times a minute. We are under attack. We know that our adversaries in many cases are already in our networks, and we are working hard on our zero trust framework, writing a national cybersecurity policy, writing action plans under that so we can measure. You can't manage what you can't measure, so we are focused very diligently on making sure that we see the entire landscape, we understand what is going on in our ecosystem, and we can take action to make sure that we are keeping our data and the public safe. We've also worked very hard on diversity, equity, inclusion, and added accessibility to it. That is a real cornerstone of the work that we're doing in my office, and one of my colleagues is here, Cassie Winters, who has been working diligently on accessibility guidelines. Next week, we're going to have the 50th anniversary of some of the first accessibility guidance that was put out by the federal government. That included, physical plant, the curb cuts that we have that we all take for granted with a baby stroller or a walker. That was the guidance that put that forward in the United States. Digital's a small component of it, but an important component of it. We also, last year, put out an executive order on transforming the federal customer experience to rebuild trust. And in the conversation with the ministers this morning, trust was a big part of what all of us work very hard to make sure that we can support and maintain in all of our environments. And then coming soon, which I thought I could tell you about in more detail today, but unfortunately not, is delivering a digital-first public experience. We're putting out guidance that states clearly digital is the primary channel. Everything must be digital by default. To my point earlier, we will always make sure that we don't leave anyone behind, that we are able to provide the services to people with different abilities or different needs, but digital will be the default for every single agency, every single budget, every single thing that we invest in the United States. And I could not be more excited. This is part of my life's work for the last 20 years, and seeing this come across the finish line will be an extraordinary moment. I wish I was here to toast with all of you, but I will be home toasting with my family, most likely. So one of the things that we have worked very hard on is, you've heard of human-centered design. We are trying to focus on human-centered policymaking, and that is a really big difference for us. As I said, that Congress writes the laws, they build the framework and the guardrails for us to operate. Then we are required to write policies that actually help agency teams deploy. So every team is on their own journey. Every single agency mission is at their own unique place. So this is a very important framework that we've developed. So the high maturity agencies understand this and are providing feedback. The lower maturity agencies understand what they need to work on to deliver services more efficiently to the government. Our policy experts, our legal teams across government understand the best practices, and then we build shared standards and services and sometimes solutions that will actually deliver this across government. So we are happy to say that some of these new policies that we've been putting out have followed this. It is user-centered. Our agencies are doing user research with every single product and service that they are delivering. We're writing it into contracts. We are making sure we have standard language that actually moves us all forward. We take those insights from the public and from our agencies in order to better inform the policies that we are putting out. In addition to that, we also put out a lot of our policies for public comment so that we can get security researchers and academics and subject matter experts in private industry to give us the best feedback so that we can craft the most actionable policies possible. So digital experience, which we've all heard of customer experience. Digital experience is really that customer experience that we all work so hard on, but delivered through these digital channels. Whether it's a website, a chatbot, all of those interactions that we use need different guidance. They need different standards. It needs different framework than some of the other components of customer experience. We also work on these multi-channel journeys going from, if you survive a disaster in the United States, you have to go to 5 different agency websites, oftentimes putting in the same information multiple times. If you lost your home in a tornado, you don't have your driver's license, you don't have your electric bill, you can't identify yourself, you might have left the house without your wallet to save your life, and we make it hard on people surviving that. So building all of these through this multi-channel life experience and life event framework helps us find those places where we should not be burdening the public to try and figure out how our agencies work. That is a failure on our part and something that we are unified from the president down in the American government to try and solve. And then again, we will constantly focus on the non-digital experiences to make sure that we are delivering the best services possible. But this is probably, for many of us that work in government, kind of an important slide. We have to change. We can't constantly be expecting the public to change. We need to change. We need to change the way that we plan, the way that we deliver, the way that we measure, the way that we write policy. We have to change across our ecosystem in order to basically go on this complete journey, right? Focused primarily, we start with security. We don't bolt security on at the end of a product delivery. We have security engineers, site reliability engineers in our first product concepting meeting. We need our security community with us to build the best products and services possible. Our budget colleagues are mission critical. I am often introduced as a member of the Office of Management and Budget. It is our finance office that runs the budget of the federal government. Very important that we are housed there in the executive office of the president, because we're able to work with our budget colleagues to support each agency's mission. As I said, everyone's on their own journey. Every agency mission is in a completely and totally unique space. And so it is really essential that our budget colleagues recognize that we're able to work with them to translate things so that we can fund the projects that have not only the greatest chance of success, but the most important projects to deliver services to the public. There's no conversation in technology without talking about the workforce, about talking about all of you, the people that do the work every single day that are dedicated and mission-driven. But we need to constantly provide our workforce in the United States the opportunity to upskill, to retrain, to learn new things, right? AI is coming at all of us. We just kicked off a 6-part series training the federal workforce on AI, so that everyone gets an opportunity to learn at a pace. It's run by Stanford University, which is a leading AI think tank based out in Silicon Valley. And we hope to be able to train our entire workforce, including our leadership, on the basic tenets of AI so that we can make more informed decisions about AI. Procurement. If I were going to try and tackle anything, and I am so curious to continue to learn from my colleagues around the world, including Iceland, it is really challenging to write great technology contracts when you don't necessarily have technologists trying to advance the mission. So we're working really hard across our ecosystem to make sure that we're partnering technical subject matter experts with our procurement and acquisition folks, so we are writing the best possible contracts and using our leverage and buying power across the United States government to get from private sector companies the most efficient and best price for the goods and services that we procure. Some of our vendor partners know a lot more about our government than we do from inside the government. I have to manually ask agencies, what's your rate card for Microsoft Office? How many Microsoft Office tenants do you have? What level of security you have? When our vendor partner knows all of that information. So we're trying to change this and advance the way that we operate in the government so we have much more transparency, and we can be a heck of a lot more aggressive negotiator when it comes to providing those services. So some of our big agencies are really very talented at this, and some of those smaller agencies don't have a procurement person, and they have to buy from the vendor in a completely different way. So we're working hard on that. Digital delivery, as I've talked about, modernizing services. Digitization, getting rid of paper, any place that we can possibly get rid of paper. Building shared services, designing, building, and adopting those shared services, and importantly, standards. We have started using standards in our nomenclature because previously we only talked about shared services, but having shared standards is really important because we do have some teams in government that are really capable of operating on their own. They just need the guardrails, right? They are very well funded. They have great technical talent. They know what to do. They know how to operate. So we're continuing to work on standards along with shared services. And then, as I said, you can't manage what you can't measure. So performance measurement, making sure that we have transparency across all of those is really critical and important for what we do. So I'm wrapping a little bit early, I think. I don't know that I've ever wrapped a little bit early in my life, so I tend to go on a tiny bit, but just wanted to say thank you all for your time. Thank you for the partnership with our Nordic and Baltic colleagues. Thank you, Iceland, for hosting us. It has been a wonderful couple days. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Claire. This was, at least to me, and I think I know I speak for my team and probably everybody in this room, this was really inspiring to just understand that we're not alone in this digital world. We all seem to be attacking or the same obstacles. So this gives this platform of bringing us out of the silos of the Nordic and Baltic and even the United States, gives us hopefully the opportunity to have the conversations and talk about the procurement, talk about the accessibility, and find solutions together. An interesting title to have, I think it might be many in this room, I know, a dream title to be working as a tech ambassador. I would like to welcome to the stage Anne-Marie Engtoft Larsen. She is the tech ambassador, as I said, of Denmark. Denmark has been in the lead when it comes to digital, so we're really looking forward to hearing what she has to say. She's going to be talking about the Nordic-Baltic digital leadership, and then she will be leading and moderating conversations with the ministers following that. So welcome, Anne-Marie.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. I am always a little ashamed when I'm in Iceland because all of you speak incredible Danish. My Icelandic is not very great yet, but next time I come, I hope that generative AI is going to allow me to just speak fluently to you. I have the great pleasure of having the best job in the world, and I'll tell you a little bit about why. And what I've seen when it comes to this question about harnessing opportunities, not least for Nordic-Baltic governments, who I believe really are not just here in this world because we share a region, but because we share values. We want to make sure that those values are not only for the people that live in this beautiful region, but thought about as we are entering into this digital new era. Digital governance in Nordics and the Baltics, for most of us, we don't even really realize it. It is a seamless infrastructure, a sort of extended arm of us that most of us forgot how tiresome it was to go down at a government offices to ask for a new driver's license, to have your kids signed up to school. Today, you do it all online. Most of us can do it, while being at the toilet, while sitting in a conversation with our spouse that is maybe a little bit not so interesting, and you can just do a little bit of the e-governments on the side. We have really digitized our societies in a way that it is seamless. It is easy to use. Most people, it is very intuitive, and it's some of the best solutions, not only when it comes to usability, but also security, of the ethics involved, of the values behind it. And that has made us, whether you're looking at one or different statistics, all of them internationally, the Nordic Baltics, we come out on top. So it's easy to have these conversations as sort of a congratulatory, let's come together and pat our backs and talk about how wonderful we're doing. Because truth is, we are doing quite wonderful. And this is a place that the rest of the world is really looking to. But we are part of a very large world. We're part of a very, very big ecosystem where technology is rapidly transforming every single aspect of our societies. And today, it is not only governments who were at the forefront of the digital revolution designing those technologies, defining them, disseminating them, and using them, increasingly tech companies. And actually, quite a small group of them have a very large influence. Most of them, their market value is way beyond our GDP. They have a reach that's far beyond even the numbers that we have together as a Nordic Baltic in terms of citizens. Their user numbers, much higher. We spend more time on their platforms daily than I do thinking about the Danish government, and I'm a diplomat. They are a part of our lives, and that is whether they are the ones deciding what memes you are scrolling, what you're seeing. They're also the ones that are at the forefront of designing and developing modern democracy. How do we speak to each other? What type of news do we get? What type of understandings of the world do we get? They are critical. Most of the Nordic Baltics is based on small and medium-sized enterprises. The digital revolution that they are embarking upon is with technologies that are coming from these markets. It's part of our foreign policy, security policy. Take the war in Ukraine. Access to internet, who decides whether you have that access? The issue around cyber attacks, cybersecurity, fundamental questions around how technology is changing everything from the very personal. Today I'm wearing a real watch. Remember those? Most of us have our phone, electronics on us from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, tracking us, giving us data, telling me I'm not walking enough, but also knowing a lot about me. And so, what is this region, the Nordic Baltic, what is it that we have to offer in a rapidly changing technological era? That's what we're going to be discussing with the panel in a second. How do we make sure that the values we were built upon, trust, democracy, agency, rule of law, the reason why the Nordic Baltic is still, despite all the rain, the best place in the world to live. And that's why people aspire to be like us, to be here, to learn from you. How do we make sure that we continue to have that role when there is a new wave of new technologies coming? We've heard a lot about the traditional digital services that many of you are very familiar with, but a lot is happening. Quantum technologies. Later, I'm going to ask the panel to explain what quantum technology is. You can, no, I won't. This incredible, it's taking a long time. It's, as a proud Dane, whenever diplomats from Denmark go, we have to talk about Niels Bohr. But Niels Bohr, the Danish physicist from more than 100 years ago, he had an argument with Einstein. Einstein spent 5 years of his life trying to disprove Niels Bohr. Niels Bohr ended up winning on quantum mechanics. This is not only about Denmark winning in an argument with Einstein. This is about quantum mechanics as a concept has been more than 100 years, more than a century in the making. But now we're finally at the cusp about to see what this powerful technology can do. And even though, why is quantum going to be big? Is it 5 or 10 years from now? No one knows. I speak to big companies who are leading this every day, and some say it's in 5 years, it's in 2 years. My guess it's a little longer. But it is going to be radically transforming our world. This really, really large ability to compute things that we haven't been able to solve for now. And one of the examples a good friend of mine who's a quantum physicist once gave me, I said, can you try to give me a picture of how powerful is quantum technology going to be? And he said, when a real quantum computer exists, with more than these 10,000 qubits, these are these very hard transistors to make because they're very wild and they're hard to get stable. But when it exists, you can ask it a question like, how am I going to manufacture a pill that would make everyone in this room, if you start taking it tomorrow, you take it for a year, you live 10 more years. That is the type of question that we're going to be able to ask a quantum computer, because unlike traditional computing, that has to first do one computing, so sort of it asks one question, tries to come up with an answer, ask the next question, try to come up with an answer. A quantum computer can ask all the questions at the same time. So it can go through every single research report ever written about why some people live longer or shorter. It can go through all the proteins on the planet that's been mapped by generative AI and talk about what exactly the right type of chemicals and proteins that could come into this pill. Apart from the fact I would like to live for a long time, imagine the catastrophic effect it would have if we tomorrow had a pill that could make all of us live 10 years longer. You'd have to rewrite most of your labor market policies. You'd have to reconsider your entire hospital services. You'd have to reconsider your pension systems, retirement plans. You'd have to reconsider the generational contract. And so quantum technology, I think, is fair to say that this is going to be a powerful technology, that how we master it, and not least how the public sector and governments engage, are going to be key to this. And then, what might we learn from the past? There's a lot of talk about Oppenheimer these days in the Manhattan Project. There's also a lot of talk about Barbie. And you gotta do this. Quick show of hands. Who's watched Oppenheimer? Okay, and how many watched Barbie? Barbie always wins. You know, I am a strong believer that you can wear high heels and red nails and still really be dedicated to also science. And I think the Barbie Oppenheimer frenzy this year has really shown that. What we can learn from the Manhattan Project is that these very, very large, monumental moments in time, whether it was the harnessing of nuclear power for a very destructive force, or it's harnessing the power of quantum technology to really solve humanity's biggest issues, require unprecedented collaboration. And so the same goes maybe in talking about what is it the Nordic Baltic can do really well? Well, we trust each other. Honestly, we like each other. We have shared culture, shared values, shared history. And so these are some of the things that I think when thinking about new and emerging technologies in this region, we can try to put into that. Another technology revolution that's certainly underway. I don't know if any of you have been talking about generative AI recently. Everything in this room, from the tables to the architecture to the microphone I'm wearing, everything is a product of intelligence. We're at the cusp of a radical transformation where the power of intelligence is going to be harnessed anew. And if any of you spend a little bit time on X, the former Twitter, or any social media, you will see astonishing examples of what this technology can do. If I come here in 6 months from now, I'll be able to probably live stream this in Icelandic. Now you can take a 30-minute clip of you speaking, and it will, not instantly, they're probably going to have that ready in 3 weeks. You will be able, for only 30 seconds, to give the exact same talk in 200 different languages. And not only that, it lip syncs your lips too. It changes your lips so it looks like you're speaking fluently. You know, as a diplomat, that's a little terrifying because part of what we do is to go out and speak different languages with other nations. But there's also obviously the whole question around, can we even trust what we see online anymore? Can we trust what we are creating? What is those fine lines between truth, reality, and falsehood? And there's a lot of conversations, is this crazy AI going to replace us? Is it going to become something better than humans? You know, I think artificial intelligence is already more intelligent on some issues than we are. The ability to compute in a very short amount of time, I will never be able to keep up. But I think what is the most important question here is, what do we allow with this technology in our society? What meaning do we subscribe to it? Don't ask what AI can't do. Ask the question, what would we like AI to do? And help decipher whether this is for mundane tasks in government, such as the annual tax report, or is this going to replace my family doctor, Dr. Erik Johnson, who I had since I was born? Because there's still not the longevity pill I talked about before, he's about to retire. Is that going to be my new injectment? Is that with Gen AI or a doctor? And so people really get excited about large language models, and so do I. They are incredible, and for all of you in this room, go and play around with them. We won't be able to govern them or to trust them or to really set the boundaries for them if we don't know what they are. There's a movie called Her about a man who falls in love with artificial intelligence. For those of you who got tired of dating, you can now date an AI. There's several online apps where if you get tired, I don't have time to date real human beings, you can date an artificial intelligence. I still believe that real love is far better than artificial love. And so this question of what do we want out of our technology and how do we make sure that the human intelligence prevail? Because we do think it's not about just replacing it for the sake of it, but what is most important to us. And with that, and we're going to be discussing this in a moment, this whole question around meaningfulness. If technology does not create a better, more sustainable, freer, fairer, meaningful life, why at all even include them? And the thing is that technology does not create inclusive societies by its own. The spinning jenny. This is at the height of the technological revolution when it started in Britain more than 250 years ago. The spinning jenny is really about harnessing steam power It's about harnessing new mechanics. It's when people are moving from rural countrysides into the city to start new types of industrialization. The thing is that technological innovation in itself won't necessarily create better results for societies. What's missing here is that what happened with the spinning jenny, the first creations of it was that it really required small hands. To operate it efficiently, large male hands didn't really work. Even large women hands, not really. So how about using child labor? And so for the first 3 decades of the Industrial Revolution, especially in the textile industry, they just employed children. Tiny hands, very smart. The thing is that it's not until we put the social innovation on top, the policy layer, that it took 3 decades to make the first child labor laws in the UK and ensuring that this technology was not created to harm children. And so with that, I just want to end on a little bit of an sort of experience and a first-hand impression from Silicon Valley and what does that mean from the Nordic-Baltic region. Just before leaving California, I moved to Copenhagen 8 weeks ago. I took a trip in a self-driving car with Cruise. Some of you have probably seen them. They're driving around now, everywhere. San Francisco is self-driving taxis, the most convenient thing to take right now. The excitement about technology. For a long time, for the good part of 20 years, maybe even 30 years, the collective imagination of what technology can do, should do, could be, has been created in a radius of 40 miles from Palo Alto. And that excitement still exists. Sure, they do read the newspapers and they know that we're talking about regulation and there are concerns. But the powerful technologies they're creating, that's why Denmark has a tech ambassador, and more countries, including some of the ones in here, have tech ambassadors that are engaging with this industry. But I think the quest now, and what we're going to be discussing in the panel in a second, is how to make sure that it's not only limited to that tiny little patch on this beautiful earth, that we do have the collective imagining here. Nordic Baltics punch above our weight all the time. We have all the opportunities for help really defining what we want with a technological revolution. So for that, I now have the distinct pleasure of inviting on stage a panel that's going to help us look into, so how do we make sure that the Nordic-Baltic region remains not only the best users and government applicators of technology, but really want to create it. Maybe the Nordic-Baltic is the new Silicon Valley of GovTech. So with that, I'm going to be inviting on stage, and they're going to come over here to get a little mic on, and then come up to me. First of all, we'll welcome back Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs, Mr. Bjarni Benediktsson. We'll invite Minister for Digital Government and Gender from Denmark, Ms. Marie Bjerre. We'll have Lukas Ilves, who is the CIO, Undersecretary for Digital Transformation from Estonia. We'll have back with us on stage Clare Martorana, the federal CIO from the White House from the government of the US. And finally, we'll have Gatis Sols, Deputy State Secretary on Digital Transformation from Latvia. Please give them a warm applause as they come on stage.
So thank you for, again, an inspiring talk. I'm not sure I'm at a point in my life where I'm willing to sit in a self-driving car. My son is going through his driving and learning how to drive, so doesn't have his license yet, but he's driving me every day, and that's a little scary thing. Whilst everybody's getting ready and getting mic'd up, again, Anne-Marie, thank you. Could you, though, share with us in the room what does a tech ambassador do every day? What's the life of a tech ambassador?
She spends half her day on social media, trying to come up with, no. The majority of my time is spending time with governments and with tech companies. With tech companies, it's trying to represent the values, the opinions, the policies of the Danish government. With other governments, we're working with other tech diplomats to try and create new alliances, new partnerships, and then internationally engaging in Global Governance Forum. That's why I've just been in New York for the UN General Assembly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now we have a full panel on stage. Thank you so much for joining me. How many of you, when I say sort of cool, sexy tech, think about governments?
What?
Come on, Iceland.is, at least you got to put your hand up. Okay. Well, after this panel, that's going to be changed. You're going to feel much more excited about it. So I'm going to dive right in, if you don't mind. Minister Pierre, you have a very unique role. You are the minister for both digital government and equality and gender. Some find it odd. I find it incredibly visionary, very, I think, unprecedented, and something we should see more of. Could you share with us, what is your vision combining these two, very traditionally not aligned, but maybe very powerful areas together? And also, could you share a little bit about what do you see the opportunities for technology in this space? What would it take for us to help unleash them?
Well, I agree. It might seem like an odd combination, gender equality and digitalization. What has that to do with one another? But actually, it's very important, and more important than ever, that we put values into digitization. It doesn't matter. It matters how we digitize and what we use digitization for. Will we reproduce bias in our society? So actually, there are a lot of correlation between that, and I think as the Nordic countries, especially the issue about having values put into digitization is very important, and that's where we can stand together, because we share some of the same values: responsibility, data protection, gender equality, and that's actually what we have to stand together about and use our influence globally to address these issues, to have responsible digitization using our values. And in order to do so, we have to stand together. And also to be a strong showcase that we are actually good digital countries, that we come up with good practical digital solutions, also solutions that are cross-border. They talk together. We had a meeting earlier today where we discussed, could we be better to cooperate together using our digital infrastructure? Like, why is it that we can't pick up prescribed medicine in other countries, in our neighbor countries? We are so digital countries. We're top ranked. We should use that to be a practical showcase that we are very digital, and use that influence to get a responsible digitization, because it matters how we use digitization. And there are a lot of concerns there. For instance, algorithms on social platforms, on gaming, designed to get people addicted. In Denmark, we talk a lot about young kids getting addicted, feeling sick. It's hard to get off that telephone. Maybe all of us feel that once in a while. And that's putting the values into it. Like, what will we allow and what won't we allow? And that's where we should stand together.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Minister Benediktsson, this goes a little bit